really what saying no means. You don't have to be so like harsh about it. It's just a matter of figuring out the best way for you to keep your values in check and do only the things that feel right for you.
Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur, the podcast that helps you expand your reach and convert that reach into clients so you can lead your tribe with confidence and create change in the world while living the life you desire. And now your host, certified business coach and consultant, Mariana Ruiz.
This episode of the Impact Driven Entrepreneur is brought to you by my Become a Client Magnet Intensive. In this 90-minute intensive, you will learn how to attract ideal clients to you using your free content. So you'll learn how to actually monetize your free content, how to attract the right people and get the people to convert. In other words, to purchase from you from your free content. And I've walked hundreds of women through this process of creating your magnetic message and really starting to attract people to you through being yourself and not being pushy and not being salesy. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, go to marianacruiz.com/work with me, or just go to marianacruiz.com and click on the Work With Me page. Welcome back to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. In today's episode, I interview Gabrielle Bogan about time management and how to really start to plan your days around your priorities. I think this is so important for us as entrepreneurs, especially when you're getting started and you're like, how does my business fit into my life? And how can you really start to design that in a way that feels good to you and is still really in alignment? Because I feel like that's the sweet spot when things start to feel easy in your business, is when you're making your plan and working your plan, as one of the previous guests, Jennifer Manyard, had mentioned in the Mom Entrepreneur Success podcast when it was called that before. Season 2, episode 8, she said, you have to make your plan and work your plan. And this is exactly what she was talking about. If you want to go back to that episode, she talked about how she created freedom in her life and just completely changed her lifestyle and redefined success for her as a corporate person who was making over 6 figures, and what that transition was like going to being what she calls an unconventional entrepreneur. So in today's episode, you're going to learn how to make your plan, and head on over to the show notes because I'm going to link up to some pictures and screenshots of the system that I use, and I can make these available to you in a special training. If you go to marianacruiz.com/download3, you'll be able to get my time management system and kind of what I do behind the scenes to keep myself organized and on task in my life and in my business. As you know, I've grown my business with 2 kids who are now no longer under 2. Woohoo! I'm celebrating having a 3-year-old and a 1 almost 2-year-old. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Gabrielle. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mariana, for this opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited to chat with you. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started working with moms and their schedule and how this kind of came about?
Sure, absolutely. So basically, for the last 2 years or so, because it'll be about 2 years in June since I found out I was pregnant, I've been struggling to figure out how to schedule my life to fit everything in. And this was a struggle I was going through before Patrick, my son, was even born. But my boyfriend kept saying, you know what, you really should create a schedule for yourself, because once the baby is here, it's going to be crazy all the time and you won't be able to get anything done if you don't have some type of schedule or routine in place. And you know what, I kind of disregarded his advice at the time, but it was about 6 months ago, so Patrick was about 6 months old at the time, that I honestly just hit rock bottom, and I wasn't getting anything done that I wanted to get done. I was losing money in my business and losing clients in my other business that I have. And Patrick wasn't getting the attention he needed. And my boyfriend and I were getting in arguments every day over the littlest of things. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to do something about this. So I decided to finally create a schedule that would allow time and space for all the things that I wanted to get done every day. And by following that schedule and really like staying committed to it every day, I truly do have the time and space to, you know, take care of Patrick, take care of myself, take care of the house, my business. And on top of that, I have time with my partner, my boyfriend, and also time to do whatever it is that I feel like doing, you know, day to day. So it's amazing to have like that structure that is not only created, but like I created it myself. Like I know what I needed to do for myself. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I love that. And I think so many times entrepreneurs really resist creating a schedule, or if we've like reached that point where we like finally freed ourselves from our 9 to 5 and are working from home, or like maybe we are a stay-at-home mom, or even like when you are in corporate and you're like, well, where in the schedule is anything really else going to fit in? And so I think there's just so much resistance when people start to do something like this. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of freedom that can come through doing it if you're blocking off time for yourself, for your husband, for your kids. And I think in general, like everybody wins. Like, would you agree with me on that?
Yes, absolutely. And I totally understand where the resistance comes from. And I think that's where my resistance came from. My boyfriend kept trying to tell me like to create a schedule. But I think, like you said, like once you have those different like time blocks for each activity that you want to do, I mean, you're actually freeing yourself because you're able to be present in each of those time blocks without having that overwhelming anxiety of getting other things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, like, you know, a lot of people talk about mommy guilt, and I certainly have some of that. But one of the biggest reasons I don't struggle with it as much is because I do have a schedule. And so before the kids are even up, I've usually already worked on the most important thing in my business. So like if everything else hits the fan, like right now, both my kids have really bad colds. And so like if I can't get a single thing done in the whole day, I'm still okay. Like my business will run. I will continue to bring money and support my family. And so that is no longer a distraction.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so crucial. I think a schedule like this, especially for mompreneurs, can almost be seen as just another system that they have to have created to be successful in their business.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. So if somebody wants to create a schedule for their life, for their business, like where would they even start?
Yes, that is such a great question. So I think it's a combination of like first defining your core values regarding time. And when I say core values, I mean the things that you value the most. So I guess for an example, like I value time freedom, which is a reason it was super hard for me to implement a schedule from the beginning. But with the schedule that I've created, I've made it so I have pockets of time freedom throughout the day where if I want to just, I don't know, go to the mall or go to the park or do something outside of the house, I don't have to feel guilty about it because that freedom is already built within my schedule. So yeah, the first step is definitely figuring out what is most important to you to get done, or what types of things are the most important to you. And then I recommend taking stock of, first of all, the things that you're currently doing that maybe aren't in alignment with those core values. And then also making a list of the things that you desire to be doing. that
Oh
are.
my gosh, that is huge. I'm so glad. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just so freaking happy you said that, because my coach asked me to keep like a tally of everything I was doing. And I hadn't done this since I was juggling my 9 to 5 and my business. And my previous coach had asked me, okay, like, I want you to take inventory of every single thing you do. We're going to start delegating. We're going to start getting things off your plate. And we're going to start deleting a lot of crap that you don't need to be doing. And so that first thing had been about 2 years since I had done a full inventory. And recently, it was like around November of last year, I was getting into the mode of like, and I've seen this with every single one of my clients. You want one-on-one clients, but you're also slightly terrified of where the hell they're going to fit in your schedule. Like, you know, and so something that has happened with myself and with every single one of my clients is that you start to either push clients away or not be fully present in the copy that you're writing to like get clients on. Like, this can be such a big trigger for people and keeps their business from growing because they think they don't have time for clients, but they want clients because they want the money, right?
Exactly.
So what I did is I took inventory of everything I was doing, and I realized just how much time I was wasting trying to learn stuff that I already knew. And I know other people can probably relate to this, right? But you think, okay, but I really need to figure out how to structure whatever in my business. Or, you know, Pat Flynn has this really great podcast today about, you know, working out in your business. And so I need to learn how to work out while working in my business. And I need to do that. And sometimes, yes, that's important. Might not be what's important to you right now or what you need to learn right now.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think like to kind of take what you told me and to break it down so it's like an easy task for the listeners to do is honestly just open up your Google Calendar or whatever you use to take stock of what events you have that week and just take a glance at what you have on that calendar. It's going to be obvious right off the bat if you're doing things that aren't in alignment, because you're going to see, oh, you know what? Oh, I have to do that this Thursday. Like, those feelings are just going to come up for you right away. And you'll know that that thing is not something you should be wasting time on.
Yeah. Another thing I found in this little thing that I was doing was compromising, you know, like overpromising stuff. So like somebody needed something and for some reason I volunteered to be the person to give it, you know. And I think that happens more and more as our kids get a little bit older and they start to go to school and there's all these things going on. And then it can be so tempting to be like, yeah, well, sure, I'll bring the cookies, when you're like, but I have no time. Like, when am I going to make cookies or even go to the store and buy cookies? And just like you said, you might want to help, but that might not be what's in alignment for you.
Exactly. And that actually brings me to the next like step in the process, which is really sticking to your time values. And this is probably the hardest step because, I mean, we're women, and I think women by nature want to say yes to everything and want to help everybody. And then to add on top of that, we're moms. So it can be really hard for us to feel like we're letting others down. But something you have to start doing is saying no. And I think like when I first started with this whole process, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, like I can't just say no to people. Like they're going to think this about me and they're not going to like me anymore. But really what saying no means, you don't have to be so like harsh about it. It's just a matter of figuring out the best way for you to keep your values in check and do only the things that feel right for you.
Yeah, so saying no allows us to stay in integrity.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me just do a quick recap here. So step 1 was to like take inventory of your values. Step 2 was take inventory of where your time is going.
Exactly.
And then step 3 is practicing honoring those values by saying no or deleting things that are not in alignment.
Absolutely. Yep.
Love that. And I guess one question that comes up for me, just because this is something I've been playing with for a while, is like, when you have your pockets of time for free time, do you sit down and do the schedule for the week in one sitting? And then do you kind of plan what those pockets will look like? Or do you just do it on a day-by-day basis? Like, how does that kind of all pan out?
So basically what I have right now, I have like every day, like basically when I knew Patrick would have like 2 nap times a day, I put those right into my Google Calendar and then figured out the types of things I wanted to be doing around those nap times and physically like put them into my Google Calendar. So like every day from, let's say 6:30 to 9:30, I put that as like my morning routine / I eat breakfast, Patrick eats breakfast. So there's like that time block and then Patrick's nap. And then there's another time pocket and then Patrick's next nap and so on. So like I kind of have it structured that way every single day. So it's just almost like ingrained in me at this point. Like I don't even have to think about it. But yeah, I mean, if there's something that I need to do any given week, I usually sit down on Mondays and brain dump and write down everything that I need to do in each aspect of my life for that week. Because if I don't do that, I literally go insane. So once I do that, I either put something as a reminder in my calendar during a certain time block, or I actually create an event on my calendar. And then whenever I have the time, I just kind of like put that time block there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you guys, anyone listening knows I'm obsessed with Trello. And so I used to just kind of keep a little running to-do list on Trello of like everything I needed to do for the week. And then I found myself bringing more people on my team. I have all my clients on Trello too. And that inbox was overwhelming. And I felt like I could no longer use Trello to keep track of my own stuff because I would be answering everyone else's stuff before I got to my stuff. So I actually changed to a paper calendar. And in the mornings, I'm like doing my mindset routine and I'm totally electronic free when I first wake up so that I'm not interrupted by my team, by my clients' needs or anything else. And just the paper. And what I do is I have like different color coded time blocks. And then I write down like if I have appointments during certain things, if I have the nanny there, or if it's work time or child time or gym time or something like that. And then I really go on a day-by-day basis because sometimes things can't get done on day one as planned, which is the reality, right? Mm-hmm. And then I can just move them to the next block. But I found that if I was planning the whole week, like exactly what I would be doing, I would then get behind and then I would feel like I didn't have time for anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what helped me with that is just, I know it's hard, but like getting realistic about what is possible. And I know it's like so hard for us because we want to be able to do everything. But what I usually do, so from the brain dump that I do every Monday, like I'll each day then make my to-do list. So each day I am making my to-do list, but basically if there's an event that I need to do or like somewhere I need to go that week, that's what I'll put into the free time pockets. Mm-hmm. But if there's just tasks I need to do, then I do plan those out each day. And I try to only put like 2 to 3 tasks under each thing. Like if there's stuff for my business, like I'll only put like 2 to 3 tasks. And obviously like that doesn't sound like a lot, but that way if I accomplish those, I'm like, wow, I did all the things that I wanted to do today. And then if you have time, you can add more.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And before we hopped on here, we talked about like when our kids' schedule changes, because that does happen, right? Or like my husband, he works varying shifts. So sometimes it's nights, sometimes it's days, sometimes it's overnight. So we have a lot of family life changes. You know, the kids grow up, they start walking, they lose their nap time. All this kind of crazy shifts happen. And so, like, how do you recommend somebody kind of get over those humps and those like shifts in schedule, shifts in life that will happen?
Absolutely. So it's funny you bring that up again, because my boyfriend and I have talked about moving Patrick's bedtime from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And every time we talk about it, I get this little feeling of like anxiety inside. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I normally work from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I was like, so you mean like I'm going to have to work now from 7 to 9? Like, I understand the anxiety surrounding it, but really all that you need to know, first of all, is that this schedule is not something that has to be set in stone. It's kind of designed to be ever evolving. So you might find yourself having to move things around as your kids grow up. And another thing, so this is where like getting rid of the mommy guilt can come in, because like you said, kids are going to lose their nap times and they're going to start wandering around, walking and whatnot. But I think it's important early on to find things for them to kind of, you know, be in their own space, have some alone time for themselves, and really create that routine early on. So you have the space to continue working on your business or whatever it is that you want to do in your alone time.
I totally agree with you. And we've been embracing some of that playing alone. We've been doing it outside, but I'll just sit down and have my coffee outside every morning. For like the last few weeks, I've been doing this and it's been really nice. Like we go out for like 2-3 hours. I have my coffee, you know, maybe listen to a podcast or just like listen to music. I have a mastermind that I meet with once a week and I'll take my calls outside. And my kids are like playing in our backyard and like, you know, we get out bubbles. It's really fun for them and also gives them that space to like not be on top of me like all the time. And then from there, then we go to the gym and then they have some playtime at the daycare there. So that has given them a lot more independence compared to how they were even just 6 months ago. I mean, my kids are still tiny. They're like 1 and 2. So for them, that's huge compared to the type of behavior that they had before that.
Yeah, that's great that you were able to develop that time to kind of have to yourself, but also make sure they're staying engaged and whatnot. I think the most important thing to remember is that like our kids need balanced lives just as much as we do. I mean, it's nice to be able to have time all day to sit down and play with them or whatever, but first of all, that's not realistic. And second of all, this is my personal opinion, but I'm just not sure if it's like the healthiest of things, because then your kids don't really know how to play on their own and don't really know what balance looks like. They just kind of assume that that's how it's always going to be.
Yeah. And I also think like to the tone of creativity, right? It doesn't allow them to get creative with playing on their own.
Exactly.
And I've noticed with my son, if he gets anywhere near the iPad, it's like a huge problem for him. Like he gets like serious withdrawals, like screaming if you try to take it away. So like even just 20-30 minutes on there, he just goes nuts. So I think like it's so easy to just hand them an iPad or hand them a screen, turn on the computer, turn on the TV. And I think there's so much mommy guilt around like being electronic free. I don't think that it needs to be that either. But I also think like see how it affects your kid and see if you can get them to have new behaviors. Because for us, like we have just music time where I play like the music I want. And you know what he does? He goes and plays with his train set and like he'll set it up himself now. And I think like it took some time for him to get used to that. It took a lot of temper tantrums, but once we got over that hump, he really enjoys his time like playing. So I think with kids, they can get used to anything. It's really just about getting over that like initial hump, the initial like, I'm bored. What do I do with myself?
Exactly. I agree with that.
Yeah, I love this. I love this topic. I think we could like talk forever.
I know, I was just thinking.
And by the way, when we talk, we're both from the same town in Buffalo called Williamsville. So that's why we have a very similar accent, if anyone listening is interested in that.
I know, I remember I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to sound so funny.
Yeah, it's going to sound really Buffalonian. Okay, so you're creating courses and stuff. So like, any tips for people who are creating more like digital products and they're not like necessarily seeing one-on-one clients for scheduling that? Because I know there's like a lot of planning. Like anytime I've done a course, it's like so much planning ahead of time. So any tips for somebody in that mode?
Yeah, I mean, if you have like babies or little kids that still take naps, I would definitely utilize nap time to either like plan or do any of the tasks related to course creation that really require your 100% focus or require quiet time. Because like if you don't get those things done during that time, I think you'll be like trying to do it when your kids are around and it just doesn't work. At least that's been my experience. It makes you feel kind of like you're doing things halfway, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that would be my number one tip. But I think also like, even if you are taking one-on-one clients, I've just really tried to maximize my baby's nap times. That's really like, if I am taking one-on-one clients, that's the time I'll do it during. Or if I have to do like a webinar or something, that's what I'll do during his nap time, because I know I can kind of count on that nap time and he won't make noise.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I did it. Like up until I tripled my corporate salary, I did not have any help with the kids. And I didn't feel comfortable hiring a nanny because I was afraid of like the financial pressure of hiring somebody if I had to pay them every week and not had the money to pay them. Like I was really afraid I would crumble under that much pressure in my business. And so that's pretty much what I did. Like I would just take clients during nap times. And if I had to do a webinar, it would be like late in the evening after they went to bed. And that helped a lot. And, you know, now I have a nanny, but she only comes like 10 hours or 15 hours at the most in the whole week. So it's not even like that many hours. But what we do, one thing that a little hack that I found is like I said, we go to the gym every day. So when we go to the gym, we have daycare there. So if I'm doing like a collaboration call, like this morning, I talked with a fellow who's creating a course. He's in another course with me and he's creating a course and he wanted to do some market research. So I talked with him during my time at the gym because I had daycare, but I don't necessarily want to use time that I'm paying the nanny for that. So that's like another hack that I've used is like doing collaboration calls while I'm on the elliptical. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And I think when you and I talked the first time, I was like driving, like I was driving really remotely. So if I'm driving somewhere and I know that's on my schedule, I'm like, okay, collaboration call, not appropriate for a coaching call because I like to give like 120%, you know, and sometimes I write notes and send them stuff. So that's not always appropriate, but that works for squeezing in like kind of the unexpected calls that you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So any final like parting tips for moms who are building their business to kind of help them manage their schedule a little bit better?
I think I just want to really emphasize that even though you're now a mom, you can still accomplish the things that you want. And you can accomplish those things without having to take away from anything else in your life. And it's really just a matter of figuring out what's important to you. I think that's really the foundation for it all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you can have it all and you don't have to choose one thing or the other. And I'm so glad you said that, because that's kind of what this podcast is all about. It's about having it all and whatever that means to you and basing it on what's important to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm happy you said that, because I think like sometimes we see other people having it all and we're like, oh, we should be like them. But really it's about your personal values, because if you're not in alignment with those values, then you're just never going to feel like you have it all.
So true. Okay, so where can people find out more about you, and where can they get to know you and your business a little bit more?
Sure. So my website is www.gabby, Gabby, Bogan, Bogan.com. And I'm also on Facebook, and my Facebook page is www.facebook.com/Gabrielle J. Bogan.
Awesome. So we'll be sure to link those up in the show notes and get everybody linked up with you. And you're also in the Entrepreneurial Moms group. So anyone that wants to ask any questions or reach out, please feel free to reach out there, and we'll link that in the show notes as well. So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have an awesome day.
You too.
So there you have it. That concludes another episode of The Impact Driven Entrepreneur. To get all of the resources that I mentioned in this episode, as well as my personal system that I use for, working my plan around time management, go to marianacruiz.com/download3, and you can get all of my system and how I plan it out and how I schedule everything out. And you can actually see screenshots of what my planner looks like on the show notes page, and that is at marianacruiz.com, and just click on the podcast area and you'll be able to get it there. In next week's episode, I'm talking with Elna Kane. She is incredible at Pinterest. Now, I don't use Pinterest in my business, so I think this was an extremely valuable training, because I literally come at it from I have no idea what I'm doing about Pinterest, and just let her really share all of her knowledge and expertise. And so I think that episode will be extremely valuable for you. Be sure to hit subscribe so you get all of the updates when that is released. Have an awesome day.